This is Eric L. Dunavant, the Mindset Disruption Strategist. Let's talk about tax planning. More specifically, why are most people paying more taxes than they need to be paying? So before I get into that, make sure that you subscribe to this channel. We keep releasing new videos on helping you think about generational prosperity and kingdom impact. And make sure you hit the bell to subscribe so that you do not miss any of the new content as it comes online. So let's think about tax planning. The entire idea behind doing strategic tax planning is to pay as little tax as possible, whether that be income tax or capital gains tax or eventually estate tax. But taxation comes from us from all sorts of different angles. And the problem with taxation is this: the minute you pay the taxes, that money is gone, right? It's a dollar that you can never use again. And because it's a dollar you can never use again, the importance to get in front of it, the importance to think about it before you actually get taxed gets to be super, super important. So I want to talk to you about why people are paying more taxes than they really need to be paying. And it comes down to really and truly understanding ownership. And I'm going to lay this out. I've talked to you many times in the past about how are you building a sandcastle, something that will eventually just wash away, or are you building kingdom, something that can be solid and built and last? And I want to talk to you about the difference between thinking about things from a sandcastle perspective versus a kingdom perspective. So when you think about from a sandcastle standpoint, the two most important things to you become: I must maintain control and I must maintain ownership of all of my assets, of all of my income, of everything that I have. And when you do that, you actually put yourself in a place of maximum taxation. Versus a kingdom mindset, which says, look, I like having control, but what I understand is if I give up ownership, I can actually improve my overall situation. And so how does this come into play? Well, control plus ownership is the way that most people operate every single day. But there are a few different strategies where you can think about control and giving up ownership. And let me just run through just a couple from a high level standpoint. We're not getting into the specifics here right now, but from a high level standpoint, one might be creating strategies, trusts, and other things to pass things to your heirs. So there are ways to do that where strategically you keep control, but you're changing the ownership to another generation. That's one possibility. The second possibility is from a charitable standpoint. There are ways to structure and create control over charitable giving, but you're giving up ownership to the nonprofit. Now, there are even ways and strategies that if you need to benefit, like you need income or you need other strategic benefit from that, there are all sorts of different strategies that can be done. It doesn't mean that the asset is given to the charity right away or that it's completely out of your touch, because all you're giving up is the ownership, not the control. And depending on your specific situation will depend on which one of those has to do. But if you have to have control and ownership of an asset, again, you're going to pay the most taxation. But let me kind of unpack this and let you see this from a bigger picture, and maybe it'll reframe the way that you look at this, because maybe, just maybe, something else is possible. So from an income standpoint, if you have to have control and you have to have ownership, you're actually going to decrease the amount of income that you control. Because, and this is going to come in next, we're going to talk about taxation, because you're paying extra in taxes and all that money is gone. And now that money that's gone cannot earn you money on an ongoing basis. So because the piece of the asset that you paid out to taxes is now gone to the US federal government, guess what? That's not earning you money any longer. And because it's not earning you money any longer, you've decreased your income. But if you can strategically position yourself where you don't have to have ownership, but you have control, there are ways to actually increase the amount of income that you're bringing into yourself every single year. primarily in these instances when you can reduce the amount of taxes that you're paying and hold on to maybe some capital gains taxes, some other things like that, depending on the structure. Second, spent a lot of time talking about taxation, but if you have to have control and ownership, I've already said this like 2 or 3 times, you will increase the amount of taxes that you pay. If you can give up the ownership, you decrease the amount of taxes that has to be paid on a regular basis. It's that ownership piece that is very key. But this gets to be, I've said this and I've given you the examples, but see how this now leverages, this becomes a domino piece that plays over into even other areas in your life, right? From an inheritance standpoint, what do you think happens if you have to have control plus ownership? Does it increase or decrease the amount of inheritance that you can give? It actually decreases it. Because your control and ownership are causing you to pay more in capital gains taxes, more in income taxes, and more in estate taxes based on the way that you're structuring your life. Versus if you can use various strategies, trusts, again, whether they're charitable or generational trusts, and you don't need the ownership, but you can find a way to give up control, you can actually strategically position these different pieces together in ways that will increase the amount of inheritance that you're getting to your children or your grandchildren. And then finally, from a giving opportunity standpoint, if you have to have control and ownership, it's actually going to decrease the amount of giving opportunities that you have versus giving up the ownership, because there are different charitable trusts and different strategies that can be pulled together, will actually increase your giving opportunities. Now, one of the things I might hear you saying is, Eric, well, which specific strategies, or how should I use this, or what should I be doing? Look, everyone's situation is unique. And the other thing I'm going to tell you is each individual strategy is not necessarily right for everyone. What I really want you to do is take this and just change the way that you're thinking about things. Because what is ultimately costing you money is not the strategy, tactic, or tool, it's your thinking. You're thinking that I have to have control and I have to own this. And what you'll find inside of the legal and tax system is most of the time, they'll ask you questions that will lead you down the road of, no, I want to maintain and control and I have to maintain ownership. And if they ask you the wrong questions without clarifying why they're asking you the question, you end up stuck in this control plus ownership position rather than being opened up to the possibilities. Beginning with the end in mind of the outcomes that you're wanting to create from a tax planning standpoint, from a generational wealth standpoint, from a kingdom impact standpoint, understanding your why, understanding where you're going are actually going to drive you into places that you can probably free up more ownership than you realize. What I've found for most people who are trying to minimize taxes is the most important thing to them is maintaining control. But when we explain to them and help them look further out and down the road and help them see, oh, no, I don't necessarily need ownership of that. I just want the control of it. And when we could help open up their mind to that and then show them the possibility of how it was increasing their income, it was decreasing their taxes, it was increasing inheritance, it was increasing giving opportunities, and strategically look through those various tools and strategies, what they began to see was, wow, a whole lot more is possible when I give up ownership. So here's my encouragement to you. Don't look at tax planning simply through the tax planning eye. Think about this for what you want to do for today, for tomorrow, and for generations to come. Think about tax planning from a perspective of what are the end outcomes I want for my family. And for those families who can focus on building kingdom impact and generational prosperity, we found they can win this game of taxation in a way that most often they've never even realized. Thank you so much for joining me. God bless you and have a great day.